An event happening in Charlotte that we wanted to share with folks, kind of give a preview what you can expect to learn. And this is hopefully going to be very insightful for folks who take part, ask questions of folks who are part of this panel. So this is coming up next week on Wednesday. It starts at 6:30. It's called The Black Experience, Leadership, Palestine, and Truth-Telling. And we have a couple folks from this panel joining us here in the Live Impact News studio to give us an idea of what folks can expect from this event. We have the Reverend Dr. Paul McAllister joining us, and we also have Jabril Huff, and both of y'all will be part of this panel, but it sounds like there will be other folks as well, and there will be multiple ideologies represented. Tell us a bit about this event. We understand this is actually a part 2 of a prior event that happened back in February. What can folks expect from next week's event?
Well, what they can expect is honest conversation based on lived experience, based on our historical understandings, and also based on some academic learnings that we have had the opportunity to have. Given the fact that we have such a diverse and inclusive interfaith panel, I think they can anticipate a wide array of topics that are being presented, and also be able to ask several questions. If they have questions about what is happening in the Middle East, what is happening in Gaza, what is happening with the state of Israel, and what our collective response as an interfaith community might be.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like here on, the news side, we have these headlines so frequently, and folks have probably been, hearing stories of what's going on in the Middle East, for months and months at a certain type of, I guess, rate, if you will. But it's a really convoluted and complicated history to kind of wrap your arms around and really understand what's happening. Is this something that you hope folks come away with a better context of things that are happening in current events today, and maybe folks can better pick how they feel about certain things, or maybe how they should contextualize certain things that are happening in the world right now?
Yes, I think this is something unique for Charlotte. You don't oftentimes get a chance to have interfaith discussion in a church such as this, to have honest conversations. A lot of times when we get together as interfaith congregations or whatnot, people like to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and not really speak to what's going on in the world. And we want to have those honest conversations. Sometimes these conversations are not easy to have, but we want to have those conversations, and not just us speaking to the people that come. We want the people that come speak to us. And sometimes, it might not be easy to digest what someone says, but I think it's necessary. If we are to build something that's going to last, we have to have honest conversations.
And you say, something that's not easy to digest. You suspect that some folks who maybe come might feel a little uncomfortable, maybe with some of the answers that they get, or maybe some of the topics that are just discussed?
Yes, that's very possible. We must get out of our comfort zones if we are going to grow and develop and learn and find out really what's going on in the world outside of us. When you talk about historic struggles, and we're connecting the Black experience to the Palestinian experience, it was Nelson Mandela who saw what was going on in Palestine and said the apartheid in South Africa was connected to what the apartheid in Palestine, what Israel is doing to Palestinians. Malcolm X, who many revere, called Israel out for its colonial occupation and apartheid actions against the Palestinians. So, we can't homogenize these people and act like we follow them and we're going to negate what they said.
Well, and I mean, you pointed out the fact that you'll have multiple backgrounds, multiple ideologies represented on this panel. We know you're with the Islamic Center of Charlotte, and Reverend, you're with the Global Leaders in Unity and Evolvement. And so we know also, though, there will be a rabbi, Dr. Barry Trachtenberg, as well as Layla El-Ali with the Charlotte United for Palestine group. So what is your hope by having so many different ideological backgrounds represented on this panel?
Our hope is people will understand and see that it's possible for people of different faiths and different persuasions to come together to work for what is right and what is just. This is not this is not a religious battle that we are in, even though, we may represent different religions. It's more political a lot of times than it is religious, but people will use religion, a piece of religion, and make a political fight for it. So it's very possible for us to come together and work for equality and justice and freedom for everyone, not just someone or some group.
Now, we mentioned this is a part 2. There was a part 1 that happened back in February, which was called Beyond Weaponization, Black History, Christian and Muslim Solidarity in Palestine. So this seemingly kind of kicked off this multi-part series that y'all are doing. How did that event go? What was the, focus of the topics presented in this one, and how do you think it went?
Well, we had several imams in the conversation, as well as another scholar named Hadi Mubarak. And I think that conversation went extraordinarily well. In fact, it went so well, we realized that it would probably be beneficial to have a part 2 because we wanted to include a broader audience. So I would say that in that conversation, we were able to prime our audience and get a sense of how the conversation would flow. And that would open the door for additional conversations. What we wanted to have in the first conversation was a Jewish member on the panel. And because that did not occur because of some logistical issues we had, we realized it would be more important for us to have part 2 and make sure that we had representation from the Jewish community as well.
Yeah. And you said, before we came on the air that you really hope folks show up and ask questions. How is the format of this event? Is it, the panelists making addresses and then people ask questions? Do you just kind of come right out the gate, ask us questions, and we answer them? And what's the format look like?
Yeah. Well, we're planning to make maybe a 3-minute opening statement, each panelist, and then open it up for Q&A and for, like I said, that's where the meat of the matter is. It's not for people to come and just hear us speak, even though we have something to share. We want to hear from the people, and we want to get somewhere. Some people may come with opposing views, and sometimes that's necessary, to get to a better place. But yeah, we want to hear from them.
Mm-hmm. What we want to do is we want folks to come away from this experience enriched. I think that would be the operative word. Enriching the lives of those who are present, as well as enriching our community to see that we can have these dangerous dialogues, some might call them, or critical or crucial conversations, and not poke holes at each other, but focus on the issues. Now, the topic for part 2 is the Black experience. And so part of what we're going to really home in on, Vanessa, is to make sure that we highlight how African Americans, irrespective as to what their religious background might be, have contributed to the whole, meaning what is our experience in the course of this entire dialogue, going back to the days of W.E.B. Du Bois, and then even the 1960s and the Civil Rights Movement with Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy, Andy Young, and then SNCC, because these individuals and groups at various points in times in history have had different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So we want to educate, enrich, enliven, and hopefully further this conversation as we move forward together.
So how do you, weave the Black experience through all these ideologies when you have these panels? Like, what I know you kind of talked about going through the history, but I guess what do you hope folks will come away with as far as like your message here?
Well, I've been to Israel, Palestine several times, and to be very blunt with you, I've encountered some very critical, dangerous situations. I hope they come away with, I hope we are able to alleviate some of the fear. There's a lot of tension in the atmosphere right now because of the war that we are engaged in with Iran. We don't want folk to feel that we can be overcome by these tensions simply because we feel we may not have a direct voice in some of the decisions that are being made by our administration and some of the decisions that have been made by foreign governments. So we want folks to feel comfortable, but at the same time welcomed in the environment that we're in, which is Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, a very welcoming congregation led by Pastor Clifford Jones. But we also hope that our community at Friendship will help to provide some sense of security and peace and disarm some of these tensions that we know are present, that we live with, and that we're finding it very difficult to eradicate and alleviate.
Well, I guess in the sense of, you mentioned the tensions and maybe how folks might be feeling right now. How important is it for people to see faith leaders come together like this?
Well, that's a good question. Faith leaders, certainly, we draw upon our faith, and I think this is very important. As a board member of MECMN, which is Mecklenburg Interfaith Network, we realize that faith is important, but faith is not the be-all and the end-all. We don't necessarily feel that persons need to bring expertise in their faith, but just a commitment to their faith. And that commitment to faith leads us, hopefully, to a commitment to each other. And that commitment to each other, in many ways, can supersede some of the articulations of faith.
Yeah, and I saw you.
I agree. Looking back, a lot of times in these interfaith circles, sometimes people are so religious, and I don't really want to give them credit for being too religious, but what I'm trying to say is sometimes people are so caught up in trying to be their religion that they don't practice principles of their own faith. Sometimes you find people who are not, quote unquote, as religious, but they're more Christian, more Jewish, more Muslim than people who claim to lead when they're not willing to deal with issues of justice and freedom for all, and sometimes controversy. They want to be too nice with people and maybe afraid to lose some kind of friendship because they know if they step out on this principle, which is just, it might cause them to lose some kind of connection or friendship. Mm-hmm. That's where we want to go. That's where we want to move to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, do you give folks advice on maybe how to broach difficult conversations with people in their circle or family or whatnot?
It's very easy. Just be real. Do what God puts on your heart. Mm-hmm. If you listen to your heart and what God puts on your heart, believe me, your mistakes will be few, and your sleep on your bed at night will be comfortable. You will be able to rest because you are doing what God puts on your heart, and you're not going by what someone else says or worrying about what else somebody else may think or say.
Mm-hmm. There's a passage in the Old Testament of the Bible or the Hebrew Scriptures that says, "The just shall live by faith." Mm-hmm. And we walk by faith and not by sight. Often we are caught up in the things that we see, but the things that are eternal, immortal, that are long-lasting, that outlive us, are unseen. And so as we draw upon our instincts, as we draw upon our faiths, and I'll give you an example since we're sitting here with you, we're both adorning our keffiyehs. Sometimes I like to wear it and sometimes I don't, and I try to be very judicious. But today felt like the opportune moment. And when I arrived in the studio, I saw Jabril, and he was already adorned and sitting there waiting for me. And now I feel like I have a twin. So following our instincts and living by our faith, I think, is so essential to sending the right messages at the right moment.
I think in general, too, it's just really interesting to learn about different cultures and different religions as well. And I think sometimes the more you learn about other religions and cultures, you realize how many similarities there are.
Yeah, Dr. Cornel West has a saying he likes to say, justice is what love looks like in public.
Yes.
And I would say the same thing is justice in your faith is what your faith looks like in public.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you want to add? I know we've touched on so many things. I want to make sure that we're giving everybody what they need about the event, or just in general. I mean, do you have reflections on just how things are going right now? I know
I'm very sick. The feeling you get in your gut when you lose a loved one or something very tragic happens. I've had that feeling since the genocide started in Gaza. But a few weeks ago, when Trump and Israel, started bombing Iran, I got it again. And it's just a sick feeling that we have leaders in this world who do not value human life. They do not care at all about human life. They don't care about the school children, slaughtering the school children. They don't care about these things. And at best, you might hear them make an excuse for it. And we're just living in times that, it could be, it could be described as some of the end of times. I'm not one to, predict when the hour is going to be. Only God knows that. But at the rate we're going, we're living in a mad world right now, and it takes a lot of faith just to hold on and keep your head up, because there is a lot of killing, a lot of death. But on the other side, there's a lot of people waking up. There's a lot of people waking up now in this moment and being enlightened. But the people in power are not changing, and that's the downside of what we're seeing. The people in power are chaotic. They're ruthless. They're thugs.
One of the things I think that struck me was the incident in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan, most recently with the Muslim gentleman driving into a synagogue or a school where Jewish children were, because he suffered a tragic loss in his own family. I think we need to help each other deal with our own tragedies and practice a greater sense of empathy than perhaps what we are accustomed to. And that means stretching, that means reaching beyond the norm. And I believe we can do that. This conversation is about that. Our venues, Al New Community Center, Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, are settings where these ideals and practices are highly encouraged. We're not asking for persons to abandon what they think and what they're committed to. We're challenging one another to listen and to have a heart, if you will, and to practice that kind of empathy that is expressed in all of the Abrahamic faiths, indeed in most of the great religions of the world. This is why we're having this in the context of faith, but we're also bringing scholarship and history and lived experiences. I talked about having been in Palestine and some of the events and tragedies and life-threatening situations that I encountered while I was there. These are not things that leave one when you've encountered them. They stay with you, and they demand that we do something about it. So this is our way, in response to the PBS docuseries, Black and Jewish America and Interwoven History. This is our way of saying to Charlotte, let's include everyone in the conversation and leave out absolutely no one.
I think about, when you talk about online, talking about village and like what it means to be a good villager or, essentially neighbor, because I think there's a lot of, isolation that we can, sometimes feel in our current society. If you're not making the efforts to outreach to your neighbor or even know your neighbor or connect with folks, it can be really easy to just build yourself a little silo. And that can be difficult maybe to retain your empathy, maybe if you're not working on it a little bit harder than maybe we had to in the past when society was structured a little bit differently.
Indeed.
And dangerous for someone who lives in a silo and never wants to get out of their box. They can sit there and let things fester and let misconceptions get to them. And then they go to the grocery store one day or they go out one day and they see a sister in a hijab or someone who appears to be Muslim. And all of a sudden they want to take all those frustrations out that are not justified on that person because they've been in that silo and they fed into that fear and ignorance in their own silo without getting out and getting to know their neighbor. And they find out, like we said earlier, at the end of the day, most of us have the same principles that we live by. We may have, of course, we have differences in our belief, but our principles and how we live our lives and what we want for ourselves, our children, are the same.
Absolutely.
And nobody around the world, let's make this clear, nobody in any corner of the world hates us for our freedom. Let's do not repeat that lie that the warmongers like. They may hate us because they don't have freedom, and we have something to do with it, because we went and took over their country and installed a dictator or whatever, and that dictator suppresses them. But no one hates us for our freedom. People are dying to get to America. They love our way of life and whatnot, but what they don't love is when we go bomb them and kill innocent people for no reason. For when they haven't attacked us, we go preemptively strike them. That's what they don't like. They don't like living under our bombs and the oppression that we sometimes give to them. So, yeah.
What doth the Lord, King James Version of the Hebrew Scriptures of the Bible, what does the Lord require of us? Do justice. Do it. Love mercy. Walk humbly. When we do that, we are better for it. And it doesn't have to be constrained or confined to the dictates and the mores and the doctrines of any particular faith. It's just a matter of looking at our neighbor and saying, I see you. I acknowledge your humanity. That's a big part of the challenge that we have, to be honest. When we look back at history, there are certain stages at which persons, for whatever reasons, have decided that their dignity, their humanity supersedes that of another. That ideology is why we're in the conflict and the mess that we're in. And we're trying to say, starting with this little small step, we can do better right here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And this step again, and I'm not exaggerating, this conversation at Friendship Missionary Baptist Church is one that is a historic conversation. These conversations have been had in smaller circles, but not in a big church, open to all. So please, if you're out there, take advantage of this opportunity, because this is something that I wanted the Interfaith community to do for a long time. And it seems like I said, people don't want to speak on stuff that may be controversial or where there may be a disagreement. We can't live like that because we can't grow and we can't really build, we can't really have meaningful relationships if we're afraid. If I have something on my face and you're afraid to tell me about it because you might hurt my feelings, but you're helping me by telling me that, then I want you to tell me about it so I can fix it.
One thing, if I may, our other two panelists, Layla L. Ali is a wonderful activist here in the community of Charlotte, and Dr. Barry Trachtenberg. He's actually the Rubin Chair at Wake Forest University in the Center of the Holocaust and Jewish Studies. So he's not a rabbi, but he is a scholar, and these two individuals have helped us to put this program together, and we're very proud to be able to have this conversation with you. And as we leave here, I'm probably going to stop by his house and go by the Funksonium, which is his attic with all of his personal memorabilia over the years.
You're welcome. I got a few new pieces since you've been there.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, once again, folks, the event is called The Black Experience, Leadership, Palestine, and Truth-Telling. It is next week, Wednesday, correct?
Yes.
6:30 to 8, and as y'all have mentioned, this is at the Social Justice Ministry of Friendship Missionary Baptist Church presenting this event. So
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. All right, folks, here on Live Impact News, we'll take a quick 2-minute break. We'll be back with more.